Well, let me give you the oral transmission on the transforming suffering and happiness into enlightenment first. Well, it's raining again, isn't it? It's been raining a few times within a day, although in the morning it was quite clear. I heard that there is quite a bit of flood. Have you watched the news? You did? So can you share some with us? Yes, flooding in Chongqing. Any more? So you didn't watch the whole news? You didn't watch all the news. Okay, all right.
Dela chushi ti jig yong tup me pe chushi nan dela tap chak me chang da yo na ne wen ba dang zhong yer gang do da jiang zhou zeng si dang zhou jiang mjor ge de 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 ji shong yang khtam to ma da lag ni gang tu jiang rang ni nyam se to bin jig ba me pe sang ke ta wi nam jor ab sha ya no jer ter shi jiang lo de we ge yang wa da ji sang wan ta sang wa ji sang lam ta sang wa Li Madag Bajan Arnedian, Semter Bijan, Gatter, the Samji, Mechipi, they were Warla Roriente, Gardam Boche, Titi Kano, Dukum Jid, Chigbur and Dignar, Jojo, Stidna Natro, Nana Natro shit, Nario shit, Jiba, Jir Sombadan, Sonso, Huenak Sermgerti, Ser Mela Cherne, Jamavian. Chola yang chi yang jine nimber she par tarde sem jar til lam kirti donor she dig lam dingor lam kirti tangor she na sem lisim les rong tangin zan khabar arnam develop dan jab laksuk ji tsawa tsuchum phusum sobur she bi mangag yang dorang zapar korte kitpala machagbe rapt shongbi tsuchum khabar ji teng jib she chang Digbala, Dingorla, Manjigbe, Tsutumte, Yonsa Tabrshi, Shirde, Jimba Tsutum Kirtendam, Zopa Tsutum Tabrshiki, Sombe Shiso. Tartan Durter, Janwala, Lam Tumbur, Lepana, Dei Chushi, Dei Chukin Jimartavatan, Kia Kimu Sandro Tartok name, Joroti and Gupatina, no more Dinger Tokan Jigbamet, Jibatarm, Jonga Yeno. Dombir namtar danjarna shanchi mavni kondo korlo gerber getcher startar dar panve neran zanar kapshet tragbo la jim nyambar jigbe randon durts togbalar tirdig rohnim gubr tambal shanchi nini gogmengi vardı hada mi gombor namgi japshur blanjan devi yoshet tamche ki nimkir tabadan jamzir barar donze shoa gi Shuvadang, Jamze Umo Chagme, Motsong Shuti Kuran de Bada. Gerbo Mevjin Yerter Daxam, the Tachi near Sorala, Soba, Tum Togman Gerame, Lungum of Gurvar Tower of Jigbe, Semjin Tunshepala, Rohun Gubrotando. Dojo Garden Bastir Skidna, Kadgan Mandonjang, Dignar Kadgan Mandonja, Skidna Kushi Cheva, Jibir Namterjan Namdin Chargezi Yen. Dangdrip Shadna Rangas Chijan Chir Nyamba Retjan, Ranit Chugin Gohyumbola, Vakchang Joshit, Amignev, Jangan, Tani, Shamanganas Pribago.
Okay, that concludes our classes. How many classes have we had on this teaching? This is the 10th?
Oh.
Okay, that's good. 10 classes. That's good. Well, I think having opportunities to give teachings and listening to the Dharma, in fact, is quite... In fact, it's already quite fortunate already. We should be happy about it.
娘这这么做的，你们种种的么能全部能够叫他把个他能参透学么都懂吧？这将来给上才为度化一切。
In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us generate the supreme bodhicitta. So let's get into the actual teaching. This is the last part of this text. Previously, we've already studied how to transform suffering into enlightenment in terms of relative and absolute truth, and then we've already talked about transforming happiness into enlightenment in relative truth as well. Now, let's continue with this teaching. If we cannot practice when we're suffering because of all the anxiety we go through, and we cannot practice when we're happy because of our attachment to happiness, then that rules out any chances of our practicing Dharma at all. That is why there is nothing more crucial for a practitioner than this training in turning happiness and suffering into the path. This is quite important to remember, because people tend to get turned down from practicing if they're not keeping up with good health, they're not having good circumstances, or they have lots of worries, no food and no clothing, not in good mood, no good weather, and so on. We have all different kinds of suffering, but if you were to get stopped because of all those conditions, we would never have opportunity to practice. You can think that I'm suffering a lot, I cannot practice, my work's not going well, my family's not going very harmoniously, and my health I'm not keeping up with my good health, and so on. This is if you were to just wait till suffering to pass and then practice. This is really how mundane beings usually do. They wait for things to be over and then get into practice again. Similarly, when you're happy, you tend to dwell in happiness. And that's what we tend to do very often as well in our habitual patterns. If you feel happy, if you want to go search for happiness, such as take a trip, and if you want to go and if you want to find happiness in watching TV, to go to the bar, to eat and drink, and listen to songs and watch TV shows, and dwell in that happiness, and then you don't practice again. You could find all different kinds of excuses. Oh, I went out with my friends. I'm too successful in my career. I don't have time to practice. So people would find all different kinds of excuses. I am too painful, therefore I can't listen and practice. I am too happy, therefore I don't have time to practice. Even if you're neither happy nor painful, you're staying in this idle state that is rather kind of in the state of no thinking, in the state of just rather waiting, and spending your life really unexamined. Then in this way, you're squandering your life without practicing the Dharma at all. Because in our life, we have either suffering or happiness. There's really nothing else. So for practitioners, there's really nothing more pitiful than that. Giving all kinds of excuses of not engage in actual practice, because your life is really short. If you do not practice because of this on one day and for the other day, then you really don't have any opportunity at all. For the previous great masters, they're exactly different. They're the exact opposite from us. They practice when there's suffering. Especially when you look at all the historical changes happened in Tibet, throughout all different kinds of changes, they never give up their own practices in meditation, in giving teachings, in their own practices. And they don't give up when they attained so-called happiness, the worldly happiness, worldly success, such as fame and wealth and so on. Even once they gain those, they don't give up either, because they don't dwell in those kind of happiness or enjoyment at all. I think those are the things that we are going to face as well as practitioners, and we should look at how we deal with it rather than how the great masters would deal with it. Either you get really happy and dwell in the happiness if you have wealth and fame and look really pretty, and you would think, oh, I'm so happy, and at that time you don't practice at all. You would throw away your Dharma texts 1,000 miles away from you. Or sometimes you get really painful, you get suffering a lot, and you would feel that, oh, I'm suffering so much, I'm suffering more than the beings in the hell realm, in the hungry ghost realm, in the animal realm. And around that period of time, you really don't have the strength in your mind to practice either. So with all the ups and downs of happiness and suffering, with all the alternations of happiness and suffering, there are people who don't have any strength or any opportunity to practice at all, and that is really pitiful. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen in our later life. It could be happy, it could be suffering, and it really based on everyone's very different karma. Some people probably have more of an even life, not much of the big ups and downs. There are people who would be a little bit more pessimistic, have a stern face, and that's how they spend their life. And there are people who laugh and smile quite a bit, and there are people who have lots of changes, and there are people who change a lot in terms of their mentality and mood. So whatever things you would encounter in your life, whomsoever kind of person you are, whatever happens, I really encourage you not to give up your opportunity to practice. There are people who tend to say that I don't have time, I need to finish my chanting, and I'll fight with you after I finish my chanting. I think that's good. At least it shows that that person do care about practice, but also he does care about fighting with the other as well. So it's hard to say if it's good or not. Anyhow, this is not the worst situation. The worst situation is to give up practice altogether. So we should really practice while we're suffering and while we're enjoying. From the worldly perspective, I think it is really the best for people to have a rather steady personality. Don't have too many changes in your personality or your mood, because that would bring lots of insecurities to the people around you. So we should try our best to create a safe environment for everyone. Do not bring insecurity to others where you would make people feel that, oh, this person's really great, and another time people would feel, oh, this person's really difficult to deal with. Don't create such big changes. Especially, I think, for people with a little bit better practice, a little bit better inner realization, even if they're going through a lot of suffering and a lot of difficulties, they can maintain certain kind of equanimity. Even if there's some kind of suffering going on in their mind, there's no way of you telling it at all, unless, of course, if you can read other people's mind. There are Dharma teachers. If they have this kind of stable personality, then sometimes even if they're not really happy inside, but they would gently bring it out or give some hints to others, but they won't make it too obvious. But of course, there are people who get very excited and very enthusiastic about expressing their feelings. In the class, when they're giving classes, if they're really happy, they would dance around on top of their Dharma throne. But when they're suffering inside, then they would cry and wet the Dharma throne with their tears. This is really not very appropriate. of course, there are great masters in the past who also appear to have a little bit in fluctuation in terms of their mood, such as Venerable Atisha. Ponso Rinpoche sometimes also would appear, also would have this wrathful appearance, and sometimes it would have a very happy appearance. Sometimes he would really tear up when he sees sentient beings suffering. On the other hand, their Dharma teachers, although have a quick temper, but people know this Dharma teacher has a quick temper, but he's a good person. Afterwards, he's fine. I think everyone's personality really is very closely correlated to the previous life's karma, and everyone's personality have big differences. Anyhow, do not give up in any situations.